religion has taken a tide over the Arabian Peninsula. And every time they win a war, there's booty. So we might as well go because Rasulullah shares it with the Muslims and we might as well get something. So they came and they said, what? We are Muslims. Here, this shows us that there's certain individuals who only took Islam for what? For the social position and the social gains. Without a doubt, there were some people in positions of power and positions of authority who only took Islam and its position as what? As a means of attaining their worldly pleasures. Abu Abdullah Hussain alayhi salamullah, our parents may be sacrificed for his dust. What does he say? Somebody says, why are you fighting Muslims? He says, I am fighting those who took Islam as a means to attain their worldly gains. They're not Muslims. They changed Islam, but they did not change themselves. They're the ones I'm fighting. Now, back to the point I want to make, Iman. So Rasulullah, Allah demands him, he says, tell them until Iman enters your hearts, you are not Muslims. Now, I've got a few points to ask before I move on to the next point. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, do we agree that Allah says, مَا يَنْطُقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, that He never speaks anything out of His own desire? Verily, it is what we have revealed to Him. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in the battle of Khandaq, when Amr ibn Abd alayhi lanatullah, who was the champion of the Arabs, jumped over the ditch and began to insult the Muslims and say, where is your heaven, where is your hell? Come, send me to hell and let me send you to heaven. Where is this Allah who you speak of His mercy? He was insulting the Muslims. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, who is for him? Who will go and fight Amr ibn Abd? And I will guarantee him heaven. Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salamullah stood up. He said, Ana lah ya Rasulullah. I am for him, O Rasulullah. Rasulullah says, sit down, Ali. Who will fight this person? And I will promise I shall not enter heaven until he enters it before me. Nobody responds. The reply came what? Ya Rasulullah, he is Amr bin Abd, who the Arabs have never stood before him. No Arabs ever dared to stand before him. Amr bin Abd was known that when he goes into a battle, he will never fight until there was 1,000 people to face him alone. That's the kind of warrior he was. So Ali ibn Abi Talib says, I am for him, Ya Rasulullah. Rasulullah says, Ali, sit down. A third time, Rasulullah says, who will be for him? Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salamullah says, I am for him. So Rasulullah says, go. Now here, what does Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say? I swear by Allah, ظهر الإيمان كله للشرك كله. كل إيمان, all of Iman is in Ali ibn Abi Talib. All of Iman has gone to face what? All of hypocrisy. Here when Rasulullah calls Ali all of the Iman, did Rasulullah say that because Ali was his cousin? Or did he say it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him, Ya Rasulullah, Ali is kulli Iman? So when Rasulullah says, Allah says to him in the Quran, tell them until Iman enters your heart, you are not mu'mins. What is he trying to say? Until the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib has entered your hearts, don't say you're a mu'min, say you're a Muslim. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So continuing from where we left off, all of Iman is what? Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salamullah. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as we said already, before talking about how Rasulullah constructed, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasul constructed the social concepts within Islam, the social rights within Islam, the political rights within Islam, the economical rights in Islam, how to do business with one another in Islam, jurisprudence law, how all these things came about, I want to take a look at the society in which we're living in today. First and foremost, we look at the history of the Western civilization, if it could be called that, because before there was the Greeks and the Romans, so there was no actual thing which called the Western civilization, which took all the Western countries today into its realm. So there was always a bit of difference in between them. However, I want to look at the Greeks, because it's without a doubt that today's society is deeply influenced by the Greek philosophers. One of the things which was famous in the times of the Greeks was myth. Now, myth was used, as we mentioned yesterday, the worshipping of idols is a form of oppression. That when I am worshipping an idol, it's because somebody else constructed this idol to oppress me. So now myth was used in a form of way to complement this idol worship. What was the myth? The myth was that there is no one unique Lord. There were demigods. There was the god of thunder. There was the god of love. There was the goddess of so on and so forth. Now, depending on what trials and tribulations you face in your life, you go to a certain god. Why? Because in those days, the politics was what? That if things go wrong, you don't blame us, first and foremost, the people in power. Second of all, you don't give up on the belief in God. Why? Say, for example, I said to you, God is all merciful. And then all of a sudden, your brother passes away in a nasty accident. You give up on God. You say, where was his mercy? So I'll say to you, no, there was the God of destruction. So what do? You blame the God of destruction. And you turn to who? You turn to the God of love and forgiveness. What do you say to the God of forgiveness? Forgive my brother who passed away. But still what? I still fear the gods. One of these Greek mythologies, which is embedded in today's society, is the mythology of Oedipus, which Sigmund Freud, who is a psychoanalyst, has called the Oedipus complex. Now, I will get to the Oedipus complex. However, I'll get to a censored version of it, because obviously there are some younger people here. By the way, Sigmund Freud, every theory he came up with, he was on cocaine. So you can imagine what kind of ideas were going through his head at this point. Not being cynical, but if it's blue, I will say it's blue. If it's white, I will say it's white. Greek mythology said what? There was a story. Now, Greek mythology, they didn't have TV, so what did they use? Their public place was the theatre. And one really clever thing they did in the theatre, I don't know if you've ever been to a drama play where you see the two masks, the sad face and the happy face. There's no features on these faces. Why? Because when I wear this mask, which has no features, you can interpolate with me. Now, interpolation is a term that was coined by Althusser. Althusser says, for example, if you're walking down the street and a police officer said, hey, and there was a black man in a hood and there was a white man in a suit, who's most likely to turn around when the police officer says freeze? The black man. Why? Because he interpolates. Because he knows that the chances was what? It was he who was mentioned by the police officer. So he stops. The white person thinks, well, hold on, I'm a white person. I know society kind of lets me off because I'm a working class citizen and so on and so forth. And I'm not really a criminal, and I'm not considered to be as a criminal. So what? I'm not going to turn around. Why? Because the interpolation doesn't work with me. Now, the Greek mythology worked with interpolation, which was what? That when I see an actor before me and there is no face, I can't put a face to him. So what do I say? I say, that could very truly be myself. Okay? I don't know, sometimes you might be watching a film and a certain song comes on, or a certain area comes on. Automatically it takes your mind back to something which what happened in your life. There could have been a moment in your life where, for example, you was having a very good day out with your friends at Thorpe Park, and I don't know, something happened which you would never forget, and then all of a sudden you're watching a film and Thorpe Park comes on and you think, yeah, that's me, you know, this is me. Or sometimes a song comes on and people say, yep, this is our song. You know, me and so, whenever this song comes along, we sing along with it.